Welcome back to another AI for Siri collective webinar. For a refresher and sometimes for the lack of having that incorrect name tag, I'm Quinn Edwards, co-founder of the AI for Siri collective. We're the leading AI enablement and adoption platform for commercial real estate professionals. We educate across 800 members across the entire industry stack, brokers, investors, developers, asset managers, property managers, and lenders, all on our online platform where it's do-it-yourself. And outside of that, we also do enterprise training, custom workshops, and cohorts built around your team, your asset class, your roles and responsibilities, and your workflows. Taking a step back, and alongside that, it's our goal here at the AI for CRE Collective to be the unbiased source of truth for all things AI and prop tech converging with commercial real estate. And that's what brings us here today. So our webinar today, one deal sourced to close. And the thesis is super simple. Acquisition teams and real estate junkies, they don't lose deals on bad analysis. They typically lose deals on slow document work. The famous old saying in real estate, right, is time kills all deals. And Kolena solely exists to compress that time, taking the document heavy, repetitive work off of your plate so you can move faster and focus on what actually matters. So today's agenda is pretty straightforward. We'll then pop it over to Kolena and Mohammed and his team to give a little background on the company and what they're building, what they're going to show today. We'll go through 3 different workflows around lease audits and abstractions to data extractions and bringing in that data to your underwriting model, and then closing it out with Kolena in your financing documents as well. And we'll leave a Q&A at the end of the webinar for about 10 to 15 minutes. So feel free, if you have any questions, put it in the chat. If there's any questions that make sense to address live, we will do so. And if not, we will hold to the end. Joining us from Kolena, the folks that will be speaking today are Mohammed El-Gendi, who is the CEO and co-founder of Kolena, and then Pedram Gobadi, who is the AI solution architect. He's going to be running us through the demos for today's workflows. So with that said, Mohammed, the floor is yours.
I'm excited to be here again and talk to your community. We've been following what you guys are doing at the AI for CRE. Really exciting work, and that work is really needed for everybody here to be educated on what new technology can offer all of us. Great. So without further ado, I want to jump quickly into introducing what we do here at Kolena, and put a quick visual in everybody's minds, like what AI can offer for CRE professionals. And then we'll pass it on to Pedram, our AI solutions architect, for the most exciting part. Like mine is going to be just some intros, but Pedram is going to show us how this work is really automated. Quinn, should I share my screen now? There you go. Want everybody to excuse me, I'm coming out of a cold. I might be coughing here or there, but I hope you can see my screen in a second. All right, so can you see my screen, everybody? Quinn, yes? All right, perfect. So really quickly here, the way we like to define what we do here at Kolena is we provide a platform to automate what we call document-heavy workflows. Kolena reads your leases, contracts, documents, financial packages, and then turn them into structured and auditable information, whether it goes into your template, or whether it's an abstract, or goes into your CRM, or goes directly into your storage, or some internal system that you're using, like Yardi or others, or something that's built in-house. It's basically ingests automatically all documents from the source, does the processing that your analysts usually do, and then it puts them where they should live. So this is how we see it. And then we saw a ton of efficiency gains. Like we average around 500K in efficiency gains per engagement with each customer. And we see more than 96% of the document review work, whether you're reviewing leases or auditing contracts or others, or creating financial packages or auditing an investment, we saw 96% saving in that labor offered by our professionals. All right, I'll show one more slide, and then we'll have Pedram show us the interesting part. But just to put some visual around what we offer here, what's an AI agent platform in general can do. So we're not offering a chat solution. There's a lot of chat solutions that are doing a good job here, so we're not competing with that. But what we do here is, think of this is the platform here, the Kolena AI agents, and then you'll be able to create in a very intuitive way, create separate agents, and each agent, think of it as performing one task. So one agent is creating these abstracts, another is reviewing financial documents, running diligence, or others. And then each agent can be connected to its own one or more sources. Could be one agent can be monitoring your email address, and every email comes in is ingested and and extracting information and putting it into a CRM or something, or monitoring your cloud storage like SharePoint or Box or others or Azure or a general system or through some kind of connection with API. So each agent connected to one or more of its data sources, it automatically ingests these documents and then process it the way it's configured, and then exports them into what the destination would look like. The destination here could be just a simple template document that you have, or template PowerPoint, or your financial planning document like Excel sheet. Could be into your CRM, Salesforce, or HubSpot, or others, or could be your Yardi or RealPage, or any other document, or any other tools that you have internally, or your storage, or send the email out. Right, you can have the email in and email out. Like there's tons of exciting stuff that we want to show you guys here, but basically, the one main takeaway from here is you will have an N number of agents, and each agent, think of it as a senior professional in your domain, senior employee who understands how things are done in the industry, and then will come in and then perform that task for you the way you configure it. All right, I will pass it on now to Pedram to show you here. We have 3 live cases that we want to show you for like the diligence cycle.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. And hi, everyone. Pedram Gobadi here, product lead solution architect with Kolena. Just to piggyback off of Mohammed's point, folks in the commercial real estate space spend a lot of time on lease abstraction, on lease audits, data extraction, data analysis. And this is the goal of Kolena, is to be a platform for all these different workflows and automate these workflows end to end. For today's demo, I'm going to start off with a lease abstraction agent that we've put together, and I'm going to progressively make it more complex as I enter into lease audit and then loan underwriting and appraisal extractions and so on and so forth. So this is the progression here. And just to highlight the 4 pillars that we're trying to follow, we're trying to be accurate, we're trying to be consistent. Things that the agent extracts or analyzes has to be auditable, and also you should be able to scale up. So have that in mind as I go through the agents. What you're looking at right now, what we call an agent, is essentially, like Mohammed said, a body of prompts that work in concert. And that body of prompts can have an input, an output, and the prompts in the middle, as you can see, are all stacked on top of each other. Like Mohammed said, you can connect via email, you can add material from SharePoint or all the other sources that you can see. Or in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and drag drop a group of lease documents, and they're all one lease. They come in, a couple of documents, this one main lease, 2 amendments. Just going to drag drop them onto the agent and get started. And immediately when I do so, the extraction begins, the abstraction begins. And if I kind of zoom in, go inside of the agent's work, I can have that view, which is a side-by-side view. You have your documents on the left side. You have all those prompts that I earlier mentioned on the right side. But my goal here is to look at lease abstraction, such a complex workflow, and see how our agents can easily do the abstraction for you and how you can audit the agent's work. So starting from, a couple of simple prompts that I have. The first one is just looking at the landlord's name. So essentially, I asked the prompt to look for the landlord name. The first thing that you see is what was extracted, or it was produced by the prompt. You also have citations, meaning if you want to know where that information is coming from, you can simply click on the citation buttons, and it will take you to that document where that information was extracted from. The second block that you see is the reasoning block. Very simple. Obviously, you have the extraction, but the thought process, the work that went behind the scene and produced this result is laid out on the reasoning block. It's really good for debugging agents. And at the last section, you can see my instructions. So extract the name of the landlord from the documents. And that's how we put the prompts together initially. But the agent is really intuitive. One way I can show you how the agents are complex and intuitive is to just scroll down, maybe go to the security deposit prompt. It's a simple prompt, but essentially it's doing a lot of things. The result is, hey, I found the security deposit as $25,000. But if you pay attention to the reasoning block, it says that, hey, the initial lease document had the security deposit as $19,200. As the agent queried other documents, meaning the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, it found that the security deposit has changed to $25,000. This is a quick way to showcase how intuitive the agents are, because if I show the actual instruction, the instruction just says, hey, extract the security deposit. I didn't ask the agent to be thorough. I didn't ask the agent to look at other documents. It just did it by default. And this intuition is present on all the prompts that you put together. It's always a good idea to make your prompts as instructed as possible. But if not, the agents are smart enough to look for the information or read between the lines. If I have a template, you usually can't see your results in this format, but really at the end, I want to have this in a Word document, a proprietary template. I already connected my template to the agent. So if I click on download, I should get a Word document in this format, and I have it already opened up. And you can see that the information that was extracted from the lease document lands on your template and fills out all the bits and pieces that were needed to fill out. And then basically you can grab this, move on to the next lease and the next lease and scale up. So I'm trying to hit consistency, auditability, and scale at this point. Now, I think I built a good enough picture on how the platform works. I just want to take the same formula and apply it to another workflow, such as lease auditing. Lease auditing essentially is the same as abstracting, but it happens in a bigger scale. In my example, I have about 10 leases that I dropped onto this new agent. So this is a retail lease and rent roll audit. My goal was to combine 10 leases, 10 retail leases, and their corresponding rent roll into one group file. Give it to the agent and ask the agent, hey, look at all the leases, compare it against the rent roll. Tell me which ones need review and which ones don't. That's the ultimate goal I'm trying to achieve here. And the agent is actually doing a good job. So on the left side, I have different leases. These are all produced lease documents. And at the end, I have also a rent roll in this format. Pretty simple. It could come from any source. But on the right side, I have certain prompts that are working hand in hand. Some are extracting the lease information. Some are extracting the clauses and risk flags. Others are extracting the information from the rent roll. But at the end, if I show you the flow here, they'll all end up on the portfolio audit summary. Now, one would say, hey, we already have a template that we put the audit results on, and we would like to have that template on the agent. Sure thing. If I click on download, I did the same thing with the lease audit as the lease abstraction. And if I look at what's downloaded, I can have the results sitting in a nice little Excel sheet here, have the information laid out, the rent actuals, the rent roll information, and the audit itself. So if I zoom in, if you'd like to see your information in an Excel format, we can do so, plus all the findings are inside notes. Let me pause here, see if there are any questions so far.
Yeah, Pedro, I have a few questions. So my first question goes to the prompting and the abstraction of the document. So some leases might be more complex than others, right? Or some landlords might have specific clauses or language that they put into their leases no matter what, that most landlords may not. So my question regarding the prompts and the agents abstracting what's in the lease, I would assume that, common terms like landlord names, security deposit, entity names, renewal options, all that stuff shows up, right? But to your point on the agent being smart enough to do the work, how confident are you that it's pulling out clauses or potentially information that might not be that common, but is very important to that specific lease document, where a prompt that you already have engineered might not cover a certain topic?
Absolutely. I see Mohammed unmuted.
I could jump in and confirm. Well, Quinn, this is like a very common question we get, and that's why we like to tell people is when you think of an AI agent at Kolena, think of an agent who has seen tens of thousands of, if this is the fastest lease, then it will be tens of thousands of leases. Now, that doesn't mean, magically 100% works. It means really that if anything has been used traditionally in as a semi-industry term, even like it doesn't have to be like a very well-known industry term, then expect it to be covered and understood. If you have something that is specific for your own organization, this is where what we call the tuning in the first, week or two, where we educate the AI on what my specific organization has these specific terms or abbreviations.
Got it. And Mohammed and Pedram, there was another question here. What LLM and AI model is Kolena using?
I like this question a lot, and I typed a quick answer, but I like that you highlighted this, Quinn, because that's actually really our secret sauce. But the beautiful thing about what we like to offer is instead of working with specifically ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or any of them, what Kolena likes to do is, because each of these models have different versions and different models, you have a stack of 10 to 15 models at all times that are top performers. Now, they are top performers in general, but each of them excel in specific tasks and lack in others. What Kolena does is all the prompts that you're seeing here on the screen are analyzed by a Kolena proprietary model, LLM, and then reroutes it to the most appropriate model and does some kind of a quality check and voting to see what's the best answer coming up. So the short answer is, if you're using Kolena, then you are using the top performing, 8 to 12 models at any specific time. And then each model is being asked to answer a specific task. A very known thing is AI is not very good at mathematical operations. So what happens here with Kolena, if the question is coming, and actually maybe we have one of these prompts here, if you have a rent roll, maybe Pedram, or the rent table. Yeah, okay, so the rent table period here, like I'll show, yes, this one. So it's like, if you look at this here, when you're asking for rent, what's the rent table look like, the Kolena AI routes this to one of the models, let's call it Gemini, and then Gemini extracts the information, but then it needs to perform some mathematical operation. Now, then Kolena AI sends the next step, the mathematical operation, to a mathematical operator, not an AI at all. Right? Think of it as an internal calculator. So it breaks down the task into an extractor and the mathematical operator, and then the reasoning, which is the other thing that you're seeing at the end, and then puts the results at the end. So in this specific example, you have some kind of a 3 systems. One LLM model that's extracting information, one is running the mathematical operation, and the third is running the audit and reasoning.
That's awesome. I like the analogy, Mohammed, of if you guys are the car and you're taking the fuel from all the different sources that need to be taken from for like the right exact task. I've heard a few folks say that in the past, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Pedram, another question for me here, just to make sure everyone's clear. So the actual abstract, once it's complete, or the rent roll that got extracted, you can customize that to your template, depending on what form and format and structure that you like to have internally, right? And if you don't customize it, you'll have your own templates that you shoot out, but it's fully customizable to anyone's current working documents.
Kolena comes out of box with default templates. We have them in different formats. You can kind of select them from this drop down here. I have PDF, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, JSON, and you can also include the reasonings that the agent found within the output as well. So this all comes in, but feel free, bring your own template, bring your own workbook. We can mount it on the agent and whatever. If you book a demo with us, it'll be super customized and you'll see your outputs from the agent.
Got it. Great.
I want to move to the acquisition teams working with multifamily assets. One of the common pain points that we see is analysts spending a lot of time extracting information from operating statements, extracting information from long rent rolls, and basically translating the information from the T12 or operating statement in your own chart of accounts. That's another step that they have to take before they even pass the information to their financial templates. The next agent that I'm going to show you is tackling that issue and specifically showing you how it can extract, translate, or recategorize, plus key in the data into your model. We just observed that being a common case for the multifamily folks. Now, over here on this agent, the documents that I dropped onto the agents are super relevant. I have a T12, as you see on the left side of the screen. I also have a rent roll for roughly 200 units. My job was to make an agent in order to speed up the underwriting process, at least for the initial assumptions. And on the right side, you can see that this workflow is a lot more complex. So I have a lot more prompts stacked up on top of each other. And starting from the top of the list, I can see there's a document checklist, just simply looking at what was provided to the agent. If anything is missing, it's going to highlight it for you in case you want to do a proper extraction. Continuing down the list, I can see that there's one prompt extracting the rent roll solely. The other prompt is building the unit mix. If I continue going down, I can see that the financials are being extracted from the operating statement. Each piece of financials has its own separate prompt. And at the same time, it is grabbing the categories that are present in a financial template. And I'm talking about these categories here with their chart of accounts and translating it to, let's say, how we put operating statements together, how Kolena looks at an operating statement. Now, once this is done, the last step, which is, okay, I have all my extractions. I just want to have them inside my template, is to click on the download button and get a copy of your financial workbook, financial model, but this time filled up or the data is already sitting there. And here's a quick example of that. So I have it here. The download is done. My unit mix is already sitting where it's supposed to sit. The financials that I extracted are sitting inside my template, the way I like things to look like. And I can go on to, change the assumptions or add more information. If you have the CapEx or anything that you have, the comparables, you can do it now. But the good portion of the legwork where you spend a lot of time doing manual and data entry extraction is taken care of just by using Kolena Agent. And just, highlighting the fact everything here is bespoke. These prompts were put together manually myself. We look at workflows. We build the workflows around what you already have. So everything is customizable and everything is bespoke. Let me pause here real quick, see if there are any questions in the chat before I switch the topic to origination team real quick.
First off, I know we're for the sake of demo, right? You need to show how that the demo works and also have the finished product ready. So how long does it take for the first workflow to complete the abstraction and the audit? And then secondly, on the underwriting, right? How long does this actually take? Let's quantify that for everyone tuning in.
The lease audit agent that I just showed, 10 lease documents plus a rent roll reconciliation, and pretty much the entire audit process happened within 2 minutes. This is the latest run I had. Cost me about 1 credit, which comes to mind when you're thinking about the bonus credits that we have for the participants. And really, the way I would calculate the time and the cost per run when you're working with Kolena is to think about how many documents or how much data you're feeding the agent and how much data you're trying to get out of the agent. That really decides. So it's something that it really depends on the input and output. So it could be as simple as just a lease abstract costing you half a credit to 1 credit, or it could be something as complicated as a loan underwriting process with many, many, many prompts that might cost you about 9 credits. But here's 9 credits for a lot of data, and you had about 1 credit for, again, a good amount of data. And we can test it out. We usually calculate how much it costs, and also we optimize our agents. The agents usually start with a higher cost, and then we find which prompts don't need to actually use the heavier models. So we change the instructions, we make it a little bit more optimized so your cost can reduce.
Got it. Another question, Pedram, is I think a lot of the pushbacks that I hear, and I would assume you guys hear the same, from underwriting and analysis using AI is that the hurdles and the issues you get into when using one of these models to actually underwrite a deal is a lot of the times these models can make assumptions that aren't necessarily realistic compared to current market conditions or just how you as the analyst or your firm traditionally analyzes deals. So I completely understand, right, how you're extracting all of this data that's given to us from the documents that we have on file. As it relates to making assumptions to meet a certain firm's metrics or what you're shooting for from an analysis standpoint, how does Kolena take into account those assumptions? Does it ask the user to provide those in advance? Does it make assumptions on their own? Where do you fall into play on that front?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a great question for anybody going through, filling out a loan sizer. The assumptions are something that kind of revolves deal to deal within the same deal multiple times. My goal here was to automate or take away the manual entry. So we don't want to overcomplicate the agent to a point where you get disappointed. We want to deliver on certain tasks that are repeatable. So I focused personally on, hey, let's just extract the information and translate the data from the operating statement so that we get a decent enough starting point. And then you can either use the assumption tools that they have, like some people are using third-party tools to extract assumptions and comparables and swap these numbers. Or we can put the agent together in a way that will receive the assumption documents as a part of this bundle that you're feeding the agent and just grab those assumptions and enter it into your model. We can look at it that way. If you really want to go the extra step, you can also have a prompt that looks up the web. We have the functionality to basically have a web search applied and look for certain information. That's also doable, but we're trying to be auditable and consistent here.
I feel like it would be smart, right, if you would provide that assumption sheet in advance to the agent, so then I can truly underwrite a deal like the way that you think. Sometimes web search can get a little funky if you don't have the right guardrails and criteria around it. Lastly, Pedram, just again, high level on the lease audits and the abstraction and the underwriting. Is there any asset class that you guys can't handle or have difficulty dealing with due to complexity, or does this span across all commercial residential assets, no matter the size, no matter the location, no matter the number of documents? Just trying to see if there's any limitations or constraints.
Well, personally, I haven't had any asset classes that break the software. I invite people to kick the tires, see how the platform works. So far, we've probably covered a lot of workflows, heavier ones for a developer. Developers' workflows are typically the heaviest in the CRE, at least I've seen, like draw requests and some of the zoning and the environmental report, because those are the heavy documents, 500 pages, 600 pages. They process well, and we just have to tune the agent so that it can process those files as well. So, yeah.
Great.
Perfect. Now, to wrap up, I will focus on another team, mostly the origination team. What I'm trying to focus here is, again, the same concept, extracting information in a consistent way, being able to run checks on loan files. So the origination teams or originators, typically, let's say they work with RTR loans, CR loans, or pretty much any type of loan. If they have a checklist that they have to go through line by line, check a body of documents, let's say a loan applicant has provided them 50 documents, starting from loan agreement all the way down to the ID cards. You can automate that process as well. Get a go, no go on this loan. You can simply see how does this loan match my requirements? Does this loan move forward in my pipeline? For data, for order entry teams, for processing, underwriting teams, everyone can build their own agents. And this is something that I did here. So the agent that you're looking at, same logic, same formula being applied on appraisal reports. I'm extracting certain information. There are certain extractions that need further calculations. Let's say you're calculating the acreage. You can just ask the agent to do so. But some of the extraction here are really just looking at the appraisals. Others are maybe checking the appraiser's certificate image and looking at the certification number, comparing it with what they entered. So a lot of those controls can be added onto an appraisal agent. And just to wrap it up, for the loan underwriting piece that I just mentioned, I have a DSCR agent here that is basically looking at a body of documents, over 20-something documents that I've sent the agent, and grabbing my checklist. And you have the first prompt here. If I click on it, I can see that the checklist is produced already. This agent is done. But 113 controls had to be put up against this loan package and give me a pass, warn or fail on these controls. Give me, substantive material, give me the reasoning, give me why it happened, how it happened. And at the end, I said, I'm not going to read 113 points. Go ahead and summarize everything into another prompt. So I just grabbed everything from that 113 point table, asked for summarization. And this one seems like, don't move forward with this loan due to reasons X, Y, and Z. And that's my piece here. Let me pause here, answer your questions, at least on the origination, see if there are anything.
How often, Pedram, are people using Kolena for this loan piece? I mean, is this a pretty common workflow that you see?
Yeah, it is a pretty common one, and it's a heavy workflow as well because we work with a lot of lenders. They work with smaller investor. They're trying to bundle these loans into the securitization and then sell it to a bigger investor. That's typically their pipeline. The loan documents come in, they're getting 100 to 200 loans per month, and just it's not humanly possible to process that many loans and ask for more loans to come in if you're going off of human auditors only. This
Yep.
process is obviously complementing their team, and they can use the agents to speed up their process.
Got it. Mohammed, I saw you answered this question in the chat, but I think this would be one to highlight as well for the greater audience. So how is data security taken care of since personal identification information is also involved in the documents that are being shared with you guys?
Yeah, that's a very important question. We take security very seriously. So we offer enterprise-grade security for all levels of customers and data on the platform. We have zero data retention, means that the AI sees your model or sees your documents once during the analysis and then forgets about it. It's never stored in whatever model we're using. No training on customer data, not us, not the LLM providers themselves. They're not allowed to have these internal agreements with them. And obviously the standard enterprise security, which is SOC 2, we are HIPAA certified as well. We're not serving the healthcare customers, but that's the highest level of security that we can get out there.
Got it.
Yeah.
Curious, how do you guys validate the accuracy in production just beyond this demo, right? Like obviously you're extracting a ton of data and theoretically speaking, that data should be fairly accurate if it's provided already in the document, but how are you providing as much accuracy as you can to the user for them to be very comfortable with taking your numbers and moving forward with whatever else they need to do?
Yeah, I mean, the accuracy process, like it says, multi-step. It's not just what we see once we ask the AI to process it. There's a lot of work that our AI and R&D team is doing behind the scenes in benchmarking the models that are out there. Like there's always, like we know the providers, the top providers of Topic and OpenAI and Google Gemini and others. So there are the big players, and each of those always have the top 3 performing versions of those. So we're talking like 8 to 12 models at any time that are known as top performers. So we're always benchmarking and improving these models on our end, and then providing that to the system, to the Kolena model. And then the Kolena model here that reads the request, understands, and then sends it to a handful of models, not all of them. And then there comes the quality check process, which is looking at the results, and we have an internal voting process. Usually if you have, let's say it sends out the results to 5 models, the 5 came back, agreed on all the same result, then okay, then that's a very, very accurate result. And then sometimes you see one model that is failing and giving us like 1 out of 4 models is not giving us the consistent answer. So you get to the proprietary models understand, like the Kolena models understand now what is the right answer based on the responses that is provided. So we do this voting process and then provide that answer on the screen. And then to make sure that this should cover 99% of issues, but to make sure that this is even covered more is the reasoning part, which is reasoning and the citations part. These are now at this point, we should not, as users, AI users, we should not accept any less than that citation. So you can click and see where the result is and then the reasoning. Because reasoning here, it's not just as, okay, the landlord name is this, but like the reasoning here comes when you're making actual decisions. It's like, how did you land on this decision? Maybe your logic is different than my policy and as a company policy here. So reasoning is very important. Citations are reasoning. So it's like multi-step process to get this accuracy done and earn the customer trust.
Yeah. What still needs a human to review before using the output, if anything at all? What would you recommend?
I keep thinking about this. This is what keeps me up all night. It's multi-step again. The extractions are always good. Now this we can trust, and let's talk about AI. So I don't come across as biased, right? About what we can trust AI with. We can trust AI with the OCR part and reading and understanding, giving us the answers. I think what would be something that you would want to review if you know as a user that you haven't given this AI that question before, or like this kind of, like you mentioned at the beginning, Quinn, something that is specific to my organization. That, okay, here's how we're going to process, but when it comes from this investor specifically, or this property specifically, we need to process it differently. So anything that you feel like it's an exception to my organization, this is where you want to take a look at the results so you can add to your prompt your specific process. So I would say now anything that's just specific to you, as an organization or as a team, this is where you want to take a look at it to improve the prompt.
Got it. So going back to the assumptions or anything that's uncommon, just making sure that it's specific to you, that's where you got to make sure you have your eyes on the data. Okay.
Absolutely.
What kind of documents or workflows are still the hardest for you guys to perform? And then what are the easiest too?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Now I was going to ask you, because I know the hardest one of the team, like you mentioned, the developers, like the architectural layouts, right? These are usually AI doesn't do very well on that, but I wanted to see if you have seen something else, Benjamin, other than this.
Well, one of the workflows is utility bill processing, because the processors typically have their own way of processing any invoice. They have multi-step. Recategorizing is pretty much the same as the operating statement, and recategorizing each line item. You just have that in a bigger scale. So that's something that we do. And again, it's a completely different workflow than what the commercial real estate folks see here. And that stands out actually as one of the hardest ones.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about how long does it really take to set up a new customer, and what does onboarding look like, and what does pricing look like outside of the 1,000 free credits that everyone here is getting?
Yeah, that's it. So this is what we think when here that we are doing an exceptional work compared to what is offered out there. Because the way we like to think of ourselves, we are not offering a product or just a tool. We like to think of ourselves as an AI transformation partner to our clients. What this means is like two main pillars. One is the product. We've been talking about it all the time. But now number two here is the premium customer support, or what we like to call it, the AI adoption transformation journey. And this here, what we do is like we pair all our customers with AI solution architects like Pedram, and we have a huge team here of experts who understand exactly the industry that they're working with in the CRE here specifically. And then they can be that liaison and talking to you and understanding, okay, where you can adopt AI, where you can bring in ROI into like this kind of investment, how you can educate your team. So this is just a big spiel to say that we have, the process starts with proof of concept, 2-week or the 1,000 credits here that we were offering in this case. So at the beginning of the 2-week free proof of concept, we agree with what we call an AI success criteria. We agree on 2 or 3 main workflows, like what we defined today with the solution architect and with the champions on our client side. And then we work through the 2 weeks here in automating that. So you expect, if you're spending this much on these abstracts outsourcing, this budget item is going to be removed from your budget after 2 weeks. Like you expect to go to production right after the 2 weeks of proof of concept. During that, our solution architect does build the AI agent for you from scratch. You don't have to do it, and then educate internal champions to find opportunities. So that's the POC part. And then after the POC, we have 3 months of the solution architect still pairs with you for the first 3 months, what we call the AI Academy, or building AI champions internally. This is where Pedram or anybody from the AI solutions team, they pair with you internally to realize higher or maximize your ROI from the engagement. The engagement happened already, we're working now, but now we built some workflows, but you can just 10x that during these 3 months. And then we educate our champions on how to find AI opportunities inside your organization, how to build your agents, and then obviously how to move on like keep building on yourself. So basically, we this is the biggest part here. Like I don't want to be talking a lot about it, but this is the biggest part of the POC and the academy after that. In terms of pricing, that was the last part of your question. We have 3 plans to fit, any kind of use cases. What we tell our customers is usually look at your use cases. Like if you have high volume, then wonderful. This is exactly where you will see the value here. I believe our plans start from $3,000 a month up to, depends on the usage. And the credits here is based on the usage and the volume that we're seeing.
How much prompt tuning, Mohammed and Pedram, do you see a new user have to go through with their agent to get it to really be specific to them?
I wish we could have shown this part, because even that part there's a lot of magic in this part here, where you don't need to think, like you write a prompt with a simple few words, like extract the rent roll table. That's it. And then the prompt is rewritten in front of you live to like AI is rewriting your prompt. So I would say the tuning is really minimal here, at least for the 90% of cases. We expect to go through 2 or 3 cycles at most. First cycle gets you 90%, and then you tune. But your prompt is being automatically rewritten by the AI.
When I prompt just outside of this specific platform, but just in general, I always feed AI, I brain dump as much as I can and then have it put a prompt together for me and then modify it like that. So it's interesting to hear that the AI does it also. A few other questions, Mohammed. Let's assume here that they're all potential new customers and they've never used Kolena before. What would you say to them is the first 1, 2, or 3 workflows that they should be thinking about automating using your platform and the agents that you guys are building?
Yeah, what do you think, Pedram? Like, my answer is always like any type of task that you see that you repeatedly do with your team is the best, because we're looking at the ROI, we're not looking at what AI can do best. So my answer has always been, whatever your team is doing the most is the best here to be repeated, to be automated.
Just to add to Mohammed's point, whatever that you have a template for already, that kind of is a good signal that this is a repeatable task. So document heavy, repeatable, and it funnels into a template. Perfect use case.
This is a personal question, and I'm sure you get this a lot, but maybe perhaps a lot of our attendees here know what Claude skills are. And maybe they hear you, Pedram, say automating template. Like, I can just go create a Claude skill and run everything through Claude. I would imagine you get that feedback and just push back a lot, right? There's all these models, they're great. And there's also purpose-built commercial real estate tools like Kolena. What would you say to that statement? Hey, I'm just going to build a Claude skill and abstract all my leases and not go with Kolena because Claude's the greatest.
Well, I mean, I use Claude myself a lot. And it's a great tool as an assistant and as some of the simpler workflows. It's amazing. But when you're talking about a serious workflow like lease abstraction, you should be able to audit your work. Some of the shortcomings of Claude, you put the skills together, but upon each abstraction, you kind of have to log the information on a separate file, go back. You don't have citations. You don't have a full view of all the other abstracts that you've built so far. And also having that document right next to your prompts so that you can go back and forth, quickly grab the information, maybe add more prompts to it. And essentially, if you want to build a skill, it's going to take a while. But on my Kolena agent, I can add 4 or 5 prompts that act each as a skill immediately and add them to the list of what has to run against my document. So Claude is amazing in certain things. Kolena is amazing in other things. They do overlap a little bit, but fundamentally they're different, I think.
And any thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, I mean, Pedram covered it well. And the more generic answer that I always give here is, if you're using Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, you're always looking at the accuracy of what this expected model would look like assuming that you were able to figure out the workflow. So you're always looking at the accuracy of that. But again, the other, when looking at Kolena, it reroutes the right request. So you're looking at always the best in each specific question and prompt to have this quality layer. Plus, you don't have to ask questions again. Like, if you're extracting one abstract or you're underwriting one loan, then okay, maybe you can do this quickly. But if you're talking about tens or hundreds of those, then you will start seeing the efficiency gains from prompting and others versus just emailing the agent and getting a response back, or dropping a folder of 1,000 leases or 100 leases or so inside a drive, and then getting them all abstracted inside your template within 20, 30 minutes.
Last question for me, and then perhaps we can stay on the line for a little bit as we get more questions coming in from the audience. Well, I guess we got another one here. Mohammed, how much time did it take to build Kolena? And do you have concerns about your clients building their own Kolena with Cloud Code?
How long it took us to build Kolena? I can tell you that Kolena raised $21 million. We have been in business for 5 years, and we went live 3.5 years after we started the company. So that's basically, and so we've been live now around 2 years or working directly with in the market. So that kind of sums up, okay, the resources going into developing that. Now, customers build this internally. There's a huge argument all the time about build versus buy. I would say that the build versus buy has mostly leaned towards buy, unless you want to sell it, or unless you're looking here to generate revenue from it. it's not worth spending this kind of investment into building something. So, I mean, it depends on what it is. Like, I'm not trying to give it like a generic answer, but if you're looking at having an agent that automate more than one workflow with the same level of accuracy and security and consistency, so you can build that trust and actually is used and return that ROI. It took us this kind of investment. And we are a team of how many now? 40 people, more than, and our AI R&D team is 5 or 6 people. So we're talking about like AI engineers, and like there's a bit of investment here. Anonymous attendee was a good question.
Just a bit of money raised and a bit of investment.
just a bit of that and a lot of gray hair.
It looks good on you though.
Thanks.
Mohammed, I think we can wrap with one final question, but what's the roadmap? Where are you guys going? What else are you guys building? What can you tease on new features and services that are coming out? Because right, AI is moving so quickly. I'd imagine you have a plan in place for where this is all going. What else should all these attendees here be looking forward to? Should they hop onto your platform?
I like this question, Quinn, because it also aligns with another question that we got from Anonymous. Kolena can work with documents that other than leasing documents. So to answer and then tie to your question here, absolutely. So Kolena now can work with any kind of document. If we are able to even call Excel sheets are documents, PowerPoint slides are documents, audio conversations, like these audio conversations, any kind of documents or data that can be read, understood by a human being, expected to be processed on Kolena. So that's to answer this question. Loan documents, broker listing agreements, service contracts, absolutely yes. Now, next, there's a big part of what we're trying to do is consistency. This is a really hard work that doesn't stop. Consistency here is when models are being generated, like new versions of models are coming, the AI keeps lacking in skills and improving in other skills. So there's a big, I would call 40% of our effort is consistency, accuracy, security. It has to always be the case. Now, next is the remaining part is looking beyond filling templates or document generation. We want to look into decision making as well. Decision making here it's not replacing really decision makers, but it's providing decision makers with insights. If you're underwriting a loan, it's a set of questions that you need to do. But if you're deciding on an investment, now this can be subjective here based on your own decision criteria. So we have been focusing everything we've been talking about in the last 50 minutes is document generation, kind of automation. Now we want to focus on decision making as the next stage.
Thank you, Mohammed, Pedram, Connor, the rest of that Kolena team for hopping on. And maybe we just stay on for the next 4 minutes as people might have some last second questions, but they drop off. But again, everyone just shared the initial deliverable that we had on the screen at the beginning. If you want to check out Kolena, feel free to scan the barcode. I'll put the link again in the chat for anyone that's looking to redeem their 1,000 credits. Mohammed, Pedram, we appreciate you coming on. We appreciate you sharing your wisdom and on what you're building. And like I said at the beginning, it's Jake and I's sole effort to be the unbiased source of truth for all these things, right? Prop tech, AI merging with our industry. And we've tested numerous tools, I'm saying hundreds, and we track 700 plus tools all in the commercial real estate space that are building different AI products and workflows and agents to solve different practical and simple commercial real estate workflows. And I could say honestly that we're really stoked on what you guys have built. We believe what you guys have built is different than a lot of the competition. And it shows through the demo here, through the conversation, and through the little bit of money and hard work you guys put in to grow this thing. So AI for CRE Collective is stoked on Kolena. We like the team a lot, and we wish you guys tremendous amounts of success.
It's great chatting with you, Quinn.
What's the downstream flow? Are Kolena clients keeping information in the platform or uploading other platforms without automation onboarding? And to add on to that, I think sometimes it's helpful to explain, you guys are building these agents, but does that live on your platform, or do these agents get deployed in an existing infrastructure for some of these companies that will use Kolena?
The agent is deployed on the platform, so there's no deployment process. It stays on the Kolena platform. Now, what's the downstream flow? We covered a little bit of this, but basically it's whatever your current flow works. So downstream here can be just download the template, or download the results, like Pedram just showed us here, or it could be export the results into some kind of internal system, like your ERD system or some CRM or others. Could be export the results, all of them into some drive, SharePoint drive. Like you have a SharePoint for input, a SharePoint for output. You drop all your documents in input, and then you just go wait for them in output, and you don't have to do that. The downstream could be email addresses. I mean, sending an email out. So we have that even live on our website. If you look at free AI tools, you just upload the document and then get the results back into your email address in your inbox. So general answer, downstream flow is however you configure it. We provide tons of options and custom connections to have to whether your storage or email or some internal system that you have, or just using other platform.
Great. I think we answered all the questions just on time.
Awesome. Yeah. Perfect.
Well, thank you again to everyone for attending. Again, my name is Quinn Edwards, co-founder AI for Siri Collective. We're here to be helpful to all of you that have attended as it relates to helping you get educated and learn more about how AI can be impactful on your business and your workflows. Then obviously, you now know what Kolena does, and you should be reaching out to Mohammed and Pedram if you want to start working with your documents using their AI platforms.
Thanks, Quinn. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Thanks
everyone.
for joining.